Welcome to this lecture, which is a basic introduction to referencing, using sources when you write papers, etc. Because we have different kinds of testing students here at MF. When you have an exam at school, then you don't have any sources you can use. You just need to remember and write. But if you do have an exam at home, or if you're put to write an essay that you're handing in, then you can use all the sources you want. You can use books and internet and everything. And the only thing that we demand when you do that is that you put up your sources, that you cite the different sources that you use. And why is it that we want you to use sources? Let's see. This is on referencing. And it's an introduction. I'll make another lecture afterwards, which is more detailed, but now just the basics. So, why? First reason is that we want what you write to be testable. That it should be able to check the claims that you make. And so it's wise as well that you do this, because maybe you write something that is wrong, but you read it in a book and it was wrong in the book, then we won't blame you, but rather blame the one who wrote the book. So it's wise to put up your sources. But it's important also. If you just say something from memory or something you heard from someone, etc., it's not always right. And that's why we want you to put up the sources so we can check that it's correct. That's a criterion, or that's a characteristic with all science, that it should be testable. The second norm or criterion or reason why we put up references is that we want to give due credit to the first who published it. That's why many researchers do their work. They want to be the first to publish a new idea or the new findings and new results and everything, and they want other people to quote them. And so that's the other reason why one should quote. And these two norms helps to explain or help you if you try to find out, should I have a reference here or not? Then you can think, is this something that someone might want to check? Or is there someone who should be credited for this? Okay. There are other norms as well, but these are the two main important reasons why we use footnotes. So then I've said a bit about why we do it, and then I'll move on to how we do it. And I'll write the recipe on the blackboard here. If you find something you want to use, it could be an idea, a good quote, it could be an argument or some interesting facts or something. If you find something you want to use, you can either paraphrase it, explain it with your own words, or quote directly. Quote directly. Just use the same text in your own essay. Generally, I recommend that you paraphrase it, use your own words, because if you just put in a lot of quotes, but you're not commenting upon it, you're not using the quote, then your text will be different style. It's a kind of jumping text instead of a fluent text when you write with your own words. And the person reading, to give you a grade, he or she may think that maybe you haven't actually understood much about this. You're just cutting and pasting from here and there instead of working with it and explaining it in your own independent way. So generally, it's best to paraphrase and use your own words. But if there's a special way that something has been formulated, or maybe something is strange that you want to comment or use in some way, then you can quote it directly. But it shouldn't be lots of quotes. Okay. So you can either paraphrase or quote directly. And after that, after the citation or after the things that you have been explaining, after that, you write a parenthesis with author's surname, comma, the year that it was published, comma, and then page number. Page number or page numbers. So for instance, like this, Jackson, 2004, page 140 would be an example of a reference in the text. There are different styles that one can use for referencing. So what I'm explaining to you now is a style called APA 6th version of the style that has been made by the American Psychological Association. If you know another style that you want to use, you're free to do that. But this is an easy way that we recommend, and you can read about it at different places at the internet, where they explain, if you're wondering about details, how should I put this or that. And there's also then, we've put in a manual in Fronter, in the exam room. There's a document called Formal Guidelines for Writing, for written assignments at MF, and then we explain this with a lot of examples that you can look at, and I'll talk more about it in my next lecture as well. But that is the style it's based on here then. Now there are some questions. Yes, okay, you put the reference, and then in the end of your essay, you write a list of references with all information. All the information about this book, for instance, if it was a book or an article. Then you'd say, which book is it, when was it published, where was it published, at what publisher, etc. That's in the list of references at the end. But in the text, it's just short parentheses with name, the year that it was published, and the page number or the page numbers. Students often have some questions about this, and what they usually ask is, how often should we put in such references? Because after all, we have learned almost everything we know. Should we say Jesus and then put a reference to the Bible, or how often should we quote or cite references? And in general, things that are generally known, you don't have to put a reference on it. But typically, the things that you learned in this course or that you learned while you were preparing your essay is things that you will put on the list of references. It may be that you're in doubt, should I put this reference or not? And in general, it will then be best to put a reference, because one too much doesn't matter, but one too little can be more serious. You can also ask your teacher, I was in doubt here, and here, what do you think? Should there be a reference here or not? It's also a question about how often in the text should you be quoting. Let's say you've been reading one chapter. Should you just then put one footnote in the beginning or in the end saying the following pages are based on this chapter? Or should there be sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph new footnotes or new references saying which page was this on and which page was that on? Here again, there are different views. Some think that it's good to have many references because then you can quite easily find the exact page where your exact claim was made and check it, while others think that the text is difficult to read when it's a lot of parentheses, and so one should have fewer. So you'll need to find your style there and your way. Personally, I write many references, others not so many. So maybe a golden mean could be after every paragraph or something. And of course, if you use a new source, then there has to be a reference and then a new reference to the new source. But if you're writing a presentation and it's generally based on one book or everything, then you may not need so many footnotes. But at least you need one footnote. It's not enough to just put the reference at the end. You have to have also in the text show where you have been using your sources. Then there's the question about oral sources. What if you've been calling a professor or talked to someone who gave you some useful information that you wanted to use? Then there's a bit of a conflict between the two norms that I mentioned in the beginning, because on the one hand, it's not testable if you say that, well, this person told me this or that in the phone, because maybe you misunderstood or maybe you remember incorrectly or something. On the other hand, it is a way of giving credit to the person that, so instead of pretending that you got the idea for yourself, you're giving credit to the one who taught you what you used. So again, some people will have many references to, I talked to this guy about this, we sat in a cafe and found this, and others will not have it. So again, you need to find your way. Was it short, not so important, or was it really big and important that you should acknowledge that someone else told you? So again, you can ask your teacher if you're in doubt, and it's better to have one too much than one too little. Yes. I'll give an example also about what it looks like in the list of references, because this was what it looks like in the text. There are many different rules for how to write this, and it's good that you just learn it now. If you plan to study for some years, it looks more professional and everything, so you get good help from the guidelines and the examples. And also when you read the descriptions of your course descriptions, the list of references there saying which books are on the curriculum, they also use the same style, so you can just copy there and it will be correct in your list of references. So for instance then, if we had this Jackson person in the list of references, it would be Jackson and then first name, John Jackson, let's say, and maybe the title of his book was The Best Book Ever written. Because he has good confidence, this self-confidence, John Jackson. And book titles should be in italics. So the letters in italics. That's for book titles, and for journals, that's always put in italics. While articles are not in italics. And then, I forgot here to put the year, because personally I use another style and then it's a year in the end, but in APA 6, the year should come here. John Jackson, parenthesis, 2004, best book ever written, and then city, New York, and let's say Oxford University Press. That's the publisher. That's the city where the publisher is that wrote that book. And there's a lot of different details then, if there's more authors, if there's one editor, if it's later edition and everything. And I'll do that in the detailed lecture. But now I'll say something very important, and that is that it's very important that you do not pretend that you've made up something or thought of it yourself, but you have actually taken it from the internet or from another book or something. We take that very seriously. If you are caught cheating, because we define this as cheating, then you will be put in a national register, your name on the cheater list, and all the institutions in Norway that offer education will know, and you won't be allowed to study anywhere for 1 year. You'll be expelled from all schools. And we also, when you hand in a paper at MF, it is automatically sent to something called EFRS, which is a computer system that checks your paper with a lot of internet pages and previously handed in assignments and all sorts of things. So it's difficult to cheat, and we may check this later, or people sometimes give us tips saying that you should check this and that. And so last year we did that because someone wrote us an email, and we checked master's thesis from many years back. We found 3 persons who had been cheating, and then we took back their diplomas, and they were people working, getting their salaries, and based on their competence as people with a master's degree, and so they had to go to their employers and tell them that they no longer had a master's degree. So it's very serious, and you should not do it. It's just, you're free to use any source, just put up the sources and you're done. I understand that it's tempting, but it's not worth it. So now I've said that very seriously. Do not cut and paste from the internet. Maybe think, oh, what if I suddenly forget one reference, and will I then be kicked out of all schools? And it's not like that. We understand the difference between a mistake, or that you forgot something, and that you deliberately try to pass something off as your own. So it's very important then that you cite your sources in the text, not just only at the end, but in the text you must show this I have taken from there, and you sign that as well when you hand in. This is all my own stuff. I have not taken anything without quoting or citing a reference. Okay, that was the basic introduction, and in the next movie or lecture we'll talk about more details.